Welcome to Subramani. I'm dealing with one investor query, which is not a very common query, and therefore I found it quite interesting. He's asking some numbers, and some numbers are little amiss, so I'm going to be innovating, so I may make mistakes. Here is a person who says that he has got a cooperative society in his office, which is willing to lend him up to 15 lakhs at about 8%. 7 or 8%. I don't know. He's not very clear about that. He's saying there is a. He says there is a 7% interest, but there could be a processing fee of 1%. So I'm assuming 8%. So he can take a loan of 15 lakhs at 8%, and his purpose is to reinvest it, right? So to invest it somewhere. And he says, I was looking at online for smaller loans are also available at with pretty decent terms, and can I borrow 15 lakhs, which is the maximum I can, for about 8%, which is what I am again assuming, for a period of 3 to 5 years or even longer, since I am young. He is about 35 years of age, and so he could borrow this for another 25 years technically. And I was considering doing this and investing that cash into ETF, index funds, mutual funds, etc. And perhaps your reaction is, why would I borrow money to invest? So, which is a good question. And my thought process is, if I can borrow money at 8% and be able to get a higher return, say 14-15%, and maybe I'm just being naive and asking a silly question, but is it possible that I would get that kind of a return? Will I get? I mean, it's very simple question. Let's boil down to, should I borrow at 8%, to lend or to invest at 15%, right? That's the question. And so my argument would be, even if you were to go internationally, very good chance that in equity over long periods of time you could get 10-11% in equity, adjusted for dollar or whatever. 10-11% is not impossible to earn. 8% is very fair. So 8%, so 11% and 8%. So on 15 lakhs, you make about 3%, right? So 3% is about 45-50,000 rupees. So you make 50,000 rupees extra. Since he has not mentioned his other income, if his other income was about 8-9 lakhs, then 3 lakhs or 3 lakhs is good amount of money, right? To make on 15 lakhs another 3% would mean what, 45,000 rupees. So 45-50,000 rupees is not bad for a person earning 6-7 lakhs. It's like getting a 1 month extra salary check, right? That's what. But he has not mentioned all those things, how much he's earning. And his argument, he said, I've similarly, since I've borrowed for a house a bigger amount, so I'm wondering whether I should be able to do this. So this is a very good question. Now also remember, when you buy a house with borrowed money, you are, or a car with borrowed money, you are not hoping that the car will appreciate and the house will appreciate, you will sell it off and repay. No, you are saying, I'm borrowing for a house. Since I'm earning a salary or having a business income, out of that I will be able to repay the loan. So whatever happens to my car is destroyed, I gift away the car, I don't use the car, it's lying in the garage unused, I don't like it, whatever reasons, I still know that I'm going to earn something from my salary with which I'm going to repay. So it's got nothing to do with what the asset is going to do. In this case, what matters is what the asset will do. So some part of your money will be in savings bank account, some of it will be in liquid mutual funds, some of it could be in say an ultra short bond fund, some of it could be in equity funds. So the equity fund portion will give you 9% for sure, or 11% for sure. But will it give you 11% year on year every year? That's the first question to ask. That we don't know, right? So what happens if the market gives you good return for some time and bad return exactly at a time when you have to repay the loan? So honestly, I do not know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea for you. Personally, I have never borrowed and invested. I always thought investing means you invest because you had money. You didn't borrow money and invest to get that extra amount, but it is not too wrong. Let us take the case of a person who has got a let's say 10 lakh rupee salary, right? Let's say take home, I'm not getting into tax and CTC and all that, 10 lakh rupees salary. he has a 5 lakh rupee expenses per annum, right? This is done. He or she also has 5 lakhs of rental income and also has 5 lakhs of interest income, right? I'm taking a very nice situation where he has 10 lakhs of income, 5 lakhs of expense, 5 lakhs of saving, 5 lakhs of rental income and 5 lakhs of dividend interest income, right? So he's got all this. Can this person borrow? The answer is yes. Let us say he borrows 15 lakhs. Let us say on that 8% is 1,20,000. Now what happens is, first of all, in his job he's got a 5 lakh excess. In his interest is getting 5 lakhs he's getting 5 lakhs of interest, and he's getting 5 lakh of rent. Let us assume for a minute that this is the combination which works. So can he just break his deposits and invest that money in equities? Yes, he can do that. Can he borrow 15 lakhs and at 8% return, at 8% interest, and borrow it for say a 15-year period? Yes. Does he have to repay this loan by a bullet payment, or can he repay year on year? Can he repay 1 lakh every year for the next 15 years? Answer is yes. If all this is yes, then it's not a bad amount of money to borrow, because this person has a 15 lakh rupee surplus every year. Out of that 15 lakhs, he has to pay only 1,20,000 as interest and another 1 lakh as the installment. He is always going to be very comfortable with this leverage position of 15 lakhs, because 15 lakhs is very small, because the person is getting 5 lakhs of rent. He's got a house, he's got all those assets. So in the worst case scenario, he can pledge against the house and borrow money and repay this 15 lakhs. That is possible. He can break some fixed deposits and repay part of this 15 lakhs. He can take some other loans from his provident fund or something and repay this 15 lakhs. For this person, borrowing makes sense to leverage and invest. But remember, if he's a very conservative investor, he should not do this. But if it is a person who is earning 8-9 lakhs after paying taxes and has expenses of 7 lakhs or 6 lakhs, which means has a very tight 1 lakh surplus to invest, this person should not be borrowing 15 lakhs and paying 8% interest, which will be 1,20,000 rupees, because you have to understand, you're investing this money in equities. Equities go down 10% every year somewhere or the other, right? It could go up 20%, then come down 10%. It could go up 30% and come down 15%. Any of these things can happen. Year on year, there is no guarantee that you will get 9%, 10%, 11% or 15%. There are no guarantees. There is no economist in the world, no chartered accountant, lawyer, economist, banker who will be able to tell you what the market will do in the short run. You can be sure that the market falls 20% once in 3 years or 3-4 years, and once in a decade it falls even by 30%. So 1993, 43% fall. It's completely immaterial that in 1992 it went up by 265%, and that is exactly the time when you will feel very euphoric, saying, should I be borrowing and investing? 265% is the return that I got in the market last 1 year. I was in the index, I got 265%. So if I have to borrow even at 8%, 10%, 12%, doesn't really matter. That's the kind of return I'm going to get. Now take the situation that you borrowed 15 lakhs, you're very tight, and the interest conditions are, interest has to be paid on a quarterly basis. So every quarter you will have to sell some shares, pay short-term capital gain. Remember, that is also 15%. So you have to earn 15% for the Sarkar, and the balance amount of money you will be able to liquidate and repay on a monthly basis. So if this 15 lakhs has to be repaid on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis or once in 3 years, whatever, at that time will you be able to have adequate liquid assets, profitable, not profitable, doesn't really matter, to pay the interest and the principal, because that is how he wants or he has structured it. I wouldn't mind if it's a loan which is so comfortable that the interest is a fraction of my other income. So whatever happens, even assuming for a minute the same guy loses his job, okay, so the 10 lakhs stops, but he still has 5 lakhs plus 5 lakhs, and his annual expenses are only 5 lakhs. So he will spend 5 lakhs out of that, and out of the other 5 lakh income, he will still be able to make sure that he is able to pay the interest and maybe part of the principal also, that much of surplus that he has, so he can go and talk to the lender and say, look, I've lost my job, but don't worry, I've got other income, I'm also looking for a job and I will be able to repay. So if your repayment is very tight, if your expenses are very tight, and if you're the sole breadwinner for a family of 7 or 8 people, I wouldn't borrow. But if you are doing very well, if you're earning well, you got other 2-3 sources of income which you're sure will continue, and you want to leverage, it's not a bad idea. But again, to quote Buffett, when you don't have money, you can't borrow, and when you can borrow, you have the brains to know that you shouldn't borrow, right? So I personally wouldn't borrow, but then I can't say that is good for you, right? Because many people will say, oh, you never needed to borrow. That's completely right. But borrowing to investing, I'm not very comfortable, but I know people who have borrowed and invested and done well, where you should have enough other income to be able to service the loan and the principal if need be. If something goes wrong, you should be able to service that. Thank you. Another thing about borrowing I forgot to add is this person is saying he's borrowing against he's borrowing in from his cooperative society and there is no security. The worst kind of borrowing happens in the bull market when you pledge your shares and buy some other shares, and that share price falls. Then you are very confident that it is a temporary thing, abhi to market sudhrega, so you keep buying more and more on the way down. And one day your broker calls and says, look, all these margin calls have come, so I have to sell all these shares of belonging to your father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister, whoever, and all your own shares, and you find that your 6-7 lakh rupee portfolio which you built over a 3-4 year period of earning small amounts of money, you see it wiped out like this, right? So it's very important to know that you can get wiped out like that. Like I love this example which a speaker gave in one of my public assignments. He said, when the crowd comes, it comes 1% at a time, 2% at a time. Like a 6 o'clock event, somebody coming from outstation would have reached at 5, right? He would not want to miss because of traffic. Assuming there was no traffic, he reaches at 5. Somebody else reaches at 5:05, 5:10, 5:15, 5:20, right? So totally slowly the hall gets filled by 6:15 and the event actually starts. 6 o'clock event starts at 6:15, but nobody has come together. Of course, there were some friends or couples who have come together, but how do they disburse? They don't disburse at the same order in which they came, right? They disburse at the same time. That is exactly what happens to wealth. You create it over long periods of time, small amounts of money, $100, $200 here and there, $10,000, then there is interest accrued, everything. Slowly one day bad leveraging can make the whole thing completely go kaput, right? So don't take that kind of a risk. So I need far more data than this. I would very honestly urge you to look for a good financial advisor who understands the whole gamut of borrowing, lending, and investing, and then take a decision. Don't be in a hurry to take a decision. And since you have said 15 lakhs, I'm assuming that's the upper limit. Start borrowing 2 lakhs, try, then 3 lakhs. Don't go to 15 lakhs on day one. Of course, you have not said what is your other income, salary, etc. So I'm assuming that your other income, salary, etc. is only about 5-6 lakhs. And therefore, you're asking this question. If your other income, if your main income is 15 lakhs, and your other income is 10 lakhs or 12 lakhs and your expenses are 4-5 lakhs, I don't think you would have even asked this question. You would have just done it. So since I don't have those numbers, this is a longish answer. Thank you.